Here I'm going to show you how to utilize the random module and how it works. All right, the random module, we're going to have some specific syntax here. So first of all, if we need to utilize an import somewhere in our code to identify that the program is going to be utilizing a random module. So somewhere in our code before we get into any kind of additional coding, that should be somewhere at the top. And we're going to utilize this following syntax. So we have the keyword random, which that is going to be the Python function. We have randinit, so it's going to be identifying that we're trying to find a random integer number. And then we have in parentheses here a start and a stop value, and that is identifying, well, clearly starting a number and ending a number. So this in a way kind of looks like a range. And from all that, then you could also assign this information into a variable. So in this example, I'm utilizing my num, and again, we're assigning it to a variable. So if we take a look at the coding techniques here, so we have the import right here. So we're importing the random module, utilized to create random numbers. And next we're going to create some syntax for the variables. So one thing that I want to do is actually, instead of hard coding a start and a stop, I'm going to be utilizing variables. So my line here would be a low range for setting the bottom number, the starting range, and a high range to set the ending, the stop value. And then here it would be my syntax for my random number. I'm calling it secret number in this particular case. I'm calling the random function. I want an integer value, and you'll notice I'm substituting the low range and the high range in these particular parameters, so it's just easy to adjust. Now, also noting the setup that I have for the functions, over here we're going to actually create a function to actually print out information about the random number. And we'll start that out by creating our definition for our function. And then we'll have my print statement. I'm going to display a number, a random number between the low range and high range. And this is also why I want to utilize the variables, because then I could utilize it elsewhere in the code. And then my next line would be to print a random number, which is going to be the secret number. And one last thing here, I need to call guess number. So this particular statement then is going to start out and call that particular function. So I'm going to run the code and we'll see what the output is. So Python, and this is my test. So I'm going to display a random number between 1 and 100, and that happens to be 79. Run it again. It happens to be 50. Run it again. 13. Now you notice that the first statement here is actually in color, and if you remember from previous labs, what I've done here is I'm utilizing these particular variables up here to change the color. I have the output of line green, and then basically changing the color back to white with the end. So you notice that my print statement over here, that's where I have my variables C1, which is up here, and then my end, which is basically here. So that's where I'm changing the colors. So this line gets printed in one color, and this gets back to the default and prints out the normal configuration. So that's how we end up utilizing the import, and that's what we're going to be utilizing for the Guess My Number lab.